Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I braid my hair as a beginner. So if you're someone who has always wanted to braid her hair by herself and to practice how to master your own braiding your own hair, then this video is for you. Keep watching. Let's get into it. So I stretched my hair the previous day using the braiding method. You can check out the video. So I sectioned my hair into three, which makes it easy for me to work with. I part my hair in the middle to the mid section. And then I'm going to add another line from ear to ear. So in order to make it easy for me to put this line from ear to ear, I'm going to be taking from where the line in the middle ends to my ear for each section. So I have a portion, that's one portion on my left. I went ahead to secure that with a satin sponge. And then for the other side, I also started from where the middle line ends at the midsection and took it to my ear. It was really hard to see what I was doing, but most of the times I was just going with my gut, and I would use my fingers to feel exactly whether the line was a bit smooth or not. But I wasn't very concerned about straight lines because, hey, we are practicing, we are beginners, so we are allowed to make these mistakes. So I had my three sections. I went ahead and secured all the three sections, and then I noticed another part, like some hair that was interfering, like they crossed each other, and I just separated those and tied the hair together. And then I have my pre-stretched hair. I also arranged the portions of hair that I will need since I'm doing knotless braids. It was finally time to braid, so I took one of those sections and divided into two, and I'm going to secure one of the two of that section, and I'm going to also separate the other one into two again. So on one section on the front of my hair, I'm going to have 4 lines, and on the other section I'm going to have, which is the other side of my head, I'm going to have another 4. So on this first line, I'm going to have three braids on this first line. So I divided that first line into 3 and I started braiding. I went in with some hair butter just to put in some moisture in my hair before I braid it. It's original, protein and vitamin fortified for kids, but I use it anyways, doesn't matter. So to braid, I section the hair that I want to braid into 3, and then I start braiding. And for knotless braid, I braid for I think 2 times before I start inserting the hair. So braiding 2 to 3 times first before you insert the hair will help you with a clean start or a proper grip of the hair. Here I braided 2 times and then I started inserting the hair. If you see how I braided and hold the hair where I can insert the hair between the space between my thumb and my index finger. So it's basically as easy as that. Just braid, and then when you're ready to insert, you hold the hair and then you place it between your thumb and your index finger, and then you braid it like that. So I actually insert the hair according to how I want the thickness to be. If you want like thicker braids, you can insert more hair. I prefer to insert smaller pieces many times rather than going in with big pieces so that it has a seamless look. So I'm just adding hair according to how I want the size of the braid to be in my hand. I keep adding until when the size is all right. I think when it's all right, I continue braiding until, and then you will notice that when you reach the end of your hair, when you reach the end of where your hair finishes, the hair might become thinner. So you at that point, I go in and I add more hair into it, as you can see me doing on the video. And then as I braid towards the end of my hair, you can see me applying that's just some hair gel that I'm applying to straighten the hair and make it smooth so that it doesn't stick out while braiding. So it's just to have a clean braid. And this is optional because I didn't use much gel or I think what I was using was hair wax because I didn't have any braiding gel. So I didn't use much hair wax to smoothen it. I just used it when it was totally necessary at the end of the braids, not to have my ends sticking out. So after putting gel and reaching the end of the hair, I added some hair there to increase the thickness, and then I continue adding. What you basically want to do is to add hair until you have your desired length at this point. So I finished braiding that one and I was done, and then I went to the next section. After putting three braids on the other line, and then the most logical thing to do was to put four on the next line. So I separated into two directly. The middle line was directly on the middle braid of the previous line. Then I separated each of those portions into two more portions, and then I started braiding, which will make four portions, four braids for that line. So I started braiding, basically doing the same thing, inserting the braiding and inserting the hair between my thumb and my index finger and braiding. And don't forget to braid one or two times before you go in with the hair, so that you have a firm grip at the roots. So I finished up those two lines and I separated the next one into two, which will make four lines for one side of my head. And then I added, for each braid as I went up, I added one braid to the upper line. So I finished braiding that section, and I think the first line was three braids on the first line, four braids on the second line, and then five braids on the third line and six braids on the fourth line. And I made sure that each braid falls between the previous braids I had made. I'm doing for the other side of my head the same thing I did on the previous side. So my first line has three braids, and I'm going in with some hair butter on this braid. I'm going to demonstrate how I braid again. I went in with that hair butter to put in some moisture, and then I'm going to separate that portion of hair into three portions, and then I start braiding. At this stage, I'm basically just building my self braiding skill. So I'm not really, you might notice that even with yourself, you might notice that some parts are bigger, some parts are not. Maybe you didn't know that. Like for me, I didn't centralize my hair very well, and the other side, the first braid was a bit bigger. But it doesn't matter at this point, since we are still learning. I think with time, I'm going to be able to navigate my hair, my head properly. So you can see I'm demonstrating again. I'm going in with that hair. I'm going with the extension and just placing it between my thumb and my index finger, and then I braid as I place it. I continued braiding and adding until I added four times, until when I got to where my own hair ends, I added again, and then kept adding until the length of the braid was consistent with the other ones. One thing I should mention is that if you're doing knotless braids, you want to have your hair arranged somewhere. So, because you need to be taking it immediately, you do not have your other hand to separate hair. So, you need to just be picking the hair that you've already arranged previously. So, I went ahead and finished up this entire part of the hair, and I had the same numbers that I had on the previous side. I did the same on the other side. Now onto the back of my head. So I separated that section into two from ear to ear, and then I secured the upper portion of it, and then I separated the one of the sections, the lower section, into two again, and I secured it. And then for the first line, I did four braids on the first line, and then I went ahead and secured all of those portions. I'm just using a clip to clip them on top of my hair so that I can just braid and without interference from them. So I finished the first two lines. I had four braids on the first line and five braids on the second line. Then I went ahead and sectioned another line. I think in this line I put in more braids there. I did eight braids on that line, putting each of them between the other braids. I move to the other section, and I'm going to demonstrate how I braid the back of my hair. So this is how I braid it. I section it into three again. So my hand is over instead of under. We can't braid the way we're braiding at the front because our hands cannot assume that position. So I'm putting my hand over and I'm separating that hair again into three. and then I began to braid. So there's one hack that I use for knotless braid is that's when if I feel like the hair in that portion is small or is a bit light, I would start adding hair earlier. So I'll just pass the hair one time and then I start adding hair instead of braiding two times before adding the hair. So you can braid two times for a firmer group, but you can add earlier if you want the hair to be thick from the root. And so that's what I was doing on this part. So you can still make sure that you secure the grip even though you're adding the hair much earlier. But if you are a beginner and your grip is quite weak, you want to braid one or two times, not even two or three times before you start adding the hair. So this is how adding the hair from the back looks. I'm still placing it between my thumb and my index finger, and I'm braiding. And then like in order to braid at this back, I'm going to braid until when it has reached a length that I can now turn it over, because you can't braid your entire hair like this. You need to flip it over. So when I braid until it's reached a particular length that I feel like is long enough to flip it over, that's when I'll now flip the hair over and then continue braiding and continue adding the hair. I went ahead and finished this section, and on this entire line I did 5 braids on it. You can see some braids are small, some are bigger, but it's okay. So I finished up the last line of the hair, and then I was done. It took me 4 days to finish this braid, but I believe that with much practice I will be quicker. So this is what it was looking like after I finished doing it. And then I went ahead and placed the ends of the hair into hot water. So this is the final result, and I think I didn't do bad as a beginner. I actually loved the outcome. So the braids were as long as my butt, and I think that's why I spent a lot of time. I spent 4 days doing it. So next time I'm just going to do it shorter so that I do not stress myself. We've come to the end of today's video, and I hope it helped. Don't forget to check out my other videos for other hair tips, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.